Okay, now that you're recording, Mel, I can't record.
It says you're recording.
Oh, okay. So I am recording here.
Yes, I think, yeah. Hopefully we're all recording in all the languages. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Come on in. We're trying to record the webinar in 3 different languages. So wish us luck. Hopefully we'll be able to post it in all the languages, but this will be the first time we've done it in a webinar format. So we'll see. We'll have other chances. It's great to have y'all here. I know it's fancy. So good. All the technology. All right. Filling up here. Lots of folks joining. All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and get started since we seem to have folks kind of streaming in. Well, welcome to our 3rd, I guess, official student loan debt webinar education moment. We are excited to have Kevin and Isabella here with us. They'll introduce themselves shortly. We have had such a great partnership with Peoplejoy, Financial Aid for Service, and the Presbyterian Mission Agency. So we're excited to welcome them. My name is Mel Tubb. I work for the Presbyterian Mission Agency and Financial Aid for Service, and I've been working with student loan debt for 8 years now, I guess, officially helping pastors with their debt and figuring out how to help kind of relieve the burden that we all kind of have found ourselves in. So welcome to this webinar. I think this will be focused on public service loan forgiveness and some of the administrative stuff around that. And Kevin is really the expert here. The Peoplejoy have years and years and years of experience working with not just all kinds of people, but specifically with pastors and people who are serving in churches. So we're really excited to be able to have their expertise to come and talk to us. And then we'll talk at the end about coaching and how to get signed up for that. So Kevin, if y'all are ready, let's just jump on in. And there is a Q&A, so please put your questions in the Q&A, and Isabella here will answer them, and we'll pull ones into the presentation as it is useful. All right, so here we go. Kevin, passing it to you.
Awesome, thanks, Mel. Appreciate the introduction and the opportunity to be back with everyone from the Presbyterian Church, and we have enjoyed a partnership with the Presbyterian Church for, I think, about 3 years, might be 4. Time flies. We also work with the Board of Pensions as well as Presbyterian Mission Agency, and appreciate the opportunity to be with you and talk a little bit about student loans and student debt and opportunities and resources that are out there for you. So we do have a fair amount of material to cover. And as Mel alluded to, I do have a colleague of mine with us, Isabella. So, my name again is Kevin Porath. I'm the VP of Operations with Peoplejoy, and I'll cover some material here, but I know that many of you are going to have questions throughout the presentation. And so that is why we have Isabella here. And she is a wealth of information. She's one of our loan coaches, and she is our success manager. She's been a success manager with us, and she reviews folks' strategies. So when it comes to the technical piece, the questions, the information about your individual details, she can definitely help those. We won't be able to answer all those, but she's a great resource. So want to make sure that you know she's here, and she's going to be monitoring the chat and Q&A. So with that, we'll jump in and get started. Just a little bit about ourselves at Peoplejoy. We were founded in 2016, and what sets us apart is that, we are a financial wellness company, but we focused in education space. And we have 2 services, one which is our advisory service. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We also have a payment service where we help administer payment plans related to education. But what we do, what we're really passionate about, is helping borrowers with their debt and helping them to manage that and make sure they're aware of resources and ultimately get them to financial wellness and financial joy, right? In terms of their student debt. Our team is made up of folks with lots of different experiences. Many of the folks on our team have student loans, so they're sitting in the same chair a lot of you are with that burden on your shoulder. We have folks that have worked in financial aid offices and colleges. We have folks that have worked for loan servicers, the bad guys, so to speak. So we've sat in a lot of the different chairs and been in the space and want to bring that knowledge to help take something that's very complicated, can be convoluted, and definitely has been changing a lot in the last 12 to 18 months, and help make it make sense. So that's who we are and what we do. So as I talked about, we have a lot of material to cover, and some of the things we're going to talk about, most importantly, is the Pslf waiver. It's a change that took place. It was actually announced last October 6th to be precise, and it's in place until 10/31/2022, or as I like to say, Halloween. So until Halloween, this is in place. So it's a very easy date to remember. And we also want to talk about payments resuming. And actually, I see I forgot to update this slide. So I have May, that should be September. So I apologize. That is a September date. I forgot to update. I missed that on this slide. So payments will be resuming in September. So there's no confusion as to when that is. As of right now, payments will resume in September of 2022. But we're going to spend time talking about loan forgiveness, consolidation and refinancing, deferment and forbearances, and then resources. So that's what we have to talk about. As I change from topic to topic, I will try to jump in the chat and Q&A a little bit just to see if there's anything there. And Bella will certainly let me know if there's a topic that's going around in the chat or Q&A that we need to bring up, make sure everybody sees and is aware of. So with that, we'll jump right into it. I want to talk about the Pslf waiver. It is a significant change as it relates to student loans. And so this is the one that was announced and put in place in October. It's in place till Halloween of this year. And what it does is it takes loan types that didn't previously qualify, that could qualify. It could always qualify by way of consolidation. However, when you consolidate it, if you've gone through this process, if you've tried it on your own, you would know that once you do the consolidation, any prior payments before the consolidation will not count towards loan forgiveness. And so what this new limited time opportunity allows is those past payments to count towards payments that can get you loan forgiveness. And I should back up a little bit. Talking about changes as it relates to this particular audience, an even more substantial change was that last July of 2021, it was announced that proselytizing, preaching, does count towards loan forgiveness. Prior to July of 2021, if you were working in a capacity or a role where you were proselytizing or preaching, you were not eligible for public service loan forgiveness. And that changed last July. And so that was the start of some significant things as it relates to the work that we do with the Board of Pensions and the Presbyterian Mission Agency, who we've been working now with for quite some time. And so, and as it relates to that change, we didn't even know until November of last year whether they were going to allow payments before July to count towards loan forgiveness. It took 4 months to get clarity on whether they would count that. So in the last 8 or 9 months, there's been tremendous change in the benefit of those of you that are probably listening to this webinar right now, starting in July and then now in October. So there's a tremendous opportunity to get loan forgiveness. And I know particularly Melanie is very passionate, has been working with folks. And so, you know, we appreciate the opportunity to share this, make sure you guys are aware of it and let you know that you have a unique opportunity to really provide great financial relief and wellness to yourselves, taking advantage of some of these opportunities. So again, what this limited waiver does is it takes loans types that don't qualify. You can qualify by consolidation, and once you consolidate, those past payments will count. towards the 120 that you need. I'm going to talk more about public service loan forgiveness later, but it can't be understated. This is a significant change for the benefit of the borrower. Another component of loan forgiveness, public service loan forgiveness, is that you have to certify employment. We'll talk more about that later, but you'll want to get any employment certified. If you were making payments on your loans while working full-time, you will want to have that period of employment certified by the employer. So the employer needs to say, Kevin worked at ABC organization from this date to this date, and that Kevin worked full-time. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Another change, again, for the benefit of the borrower, is that they've expanded and opened up the types of repayment plans you can be on. So many of you might be on standard, some of you may be on graduated, some of you may be on extended graduated plans. Some of you may be on income-driven repayment plans. Income-driven repayment plans qualify for public service loan forgiveness. The other plans that I've listed here and just mentioned, standard, graduate, extended, those plans don't normally count towards public service loan forgiveness. But as a result of this limited waiver that went in place last October and is in place until Halloween of this coming year, those payments count. So again, very significant change for the benefit of the borrower. Another change, if you made an underpayment, so if your minimum monthly payment was $150 a month and you only paid $145 on that month, would not count towards loan forgiveness. Now it will. In addition, and as crazy as this sounds, if you made an overpayment, if your monthly payment was 145 and you rounded it up and paid 150 just because you're particular and you like nice even numbers, so you rounded up and made it 150 instead of the 145, or because you were doing that with the hopes of paying your loan off faster and paying less total interest, that overpayment would not count. So yes, paying too much penalized you, as crazy as it is. But with this limited waiver, those overpayments now count. Okay, and again, all of those payments will count if you have your employment certified. So the employment certification is a very important part of this, and we'll talk more about this on a later slide. So these, again, are all positive changes. They're all for the benefit of the borrower. And if you have questions, you can certainly throw those in the chat. I'm getting ready to change topics and talk specifically about the most common forgiveness program that that we help folks with, which is public service loan forgiveness. But there are other types of loan forgiveness as well. So before I do that, I want to just check my message. I think perhaps Bella has messaged me.
Wanted to just say something really quick. And I know Melanie is doing a great job at trying to communicate this. If you guys wouldn't mind posting your actual questions in the Q&A portion, so that way other people, if they have a similar question, can see the answer as well, that would be great. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So with that, we'll plow ahead. We're going to talk about loan forgiveness. And again, we're going to talk about public service loan forgiveness. There are other types of forgiveness programs that are out there, but this is the one that is the one that we work the most with, is the most impactful for folks. And we'll talk a little bit about why. So when you're talking about public service loan forgiveness, what we're talking about is having to work 10 years or more, but at least 10 years full-time while making payments on your loans, and the work that you're doing is in a public service type capacity, right? You're working for a nonprofit, you're working for a public service organization, you're working for a government or military organization. Those are the types of employment that you have to be in to qualify. And as I alluded to earlier, prior to July of 2021, your proselytizing work would not have counted, but now it does, and it's retroactive. So as far back, if you've been working as a preacher for 20 years and you've been making payments on your loans all of that time, and those payments can now count as part of this limited waiver. All right. So the 5 steps, we like to say there's 5 key elements to public service loan forgiveness. The first is you have to be on the right repayment plan. And what is that? That's what I alluded to earlier. Right? If you were on extended or graduated, those are not eligible plans. You have to be on an income-driven repayment plan. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that is what that First step is you have to be on the right type of repayment plan. 2, you have to have the right loan type. Not all loan types qualify for loan forgiveness. There are loan types that don't qualify that can become eligible, but they have to be consolidated. So that's a step we help a lot of folks with. One of the things, if you've ever done research or heard anything about public service loan forgiveness, what most people know or understand is that it has a very high rejection rate. Historically, 98 or 99% of all requests or applications for loan forgiveness, public service loan forgiveness, are rejected. We like to flip that number. We like to take it from a 98, 99% rejection and turn it into a 98, 99% acceptance rate. And we have a good record of doing that. And that includes folks with in proselytizing in the preaching capacity, working in the Presbyterian church. So step 2 is making sure you have the right loan type. All of these steps are steps that cause people to get loans not forgiven, to get the rejection letter, right? And these are the steps that we help people with to make sure that they have a 98% acceptance rate. If we tell you that you're going to get to loan forgiveness, we work very hard to make sure that happens. All right, things can change in time to make that not happen. But if we tell you that you're going to get to loan forgiveness, then we're going to work to make that happen to get you to the finish line. Okay. Step 3, I've already talked about employment certification. You have to get your employment certified. I've joked with Melanie and from others in Presbyterian Mission and the Board of Pensions that we work with a lot of pastors, and I often describe folks working in these roles as nomads. You guys tend to work for 3 to 5 years and you move from one location to the next. And you may have to certify employment in more than one place. One option is if you work at a couple different locations that are all within the same presbytery, you could get your employment certified at the presbytery level, or you can get it certified at the specific location level. There's flexibility. It doesn't have to be just, there's certain information, and we'll talk more about that. Step 4, you have to make 120 payments. So again, it's a minimum of 10 years. For some folks, it might take more than 10 years because they may not be working full time, or they may not be working for a qualifying employer. So it's 120 qualifying payments while working full time for a qualifying employer. So you might make 120 of those, but you might also make another 20 or 30 payments when you're not employed or you're not working for a qualifying employer. So there's other reasons why you might make more than 120. And finally, once you meet all the first 4 steps, you have to apply and you have to ask for forgiveness. Okay. So there's forms and paperwork. This is what the form looks like. It's a 2-page form. The first page is the page that the borrower completes. When folks that we're working with, we will complete almost this entire page for you. The only thing that you as a borrower or a client of ours would need to do is provide your social security number, because we don't store that in our system. You put that on the form yourself, and then your signature. Other than that, we will complete everything that you as the borrower need to do on page 1. We'll check the right boxes. One of the things that's important to know, a lot of folks aren't aware of, is right here in number, I believe it's number 4. I've got to move this window out of the way. Yes, it's actually number 3. So number 3 says that by submitting this form, you understand your loans may be transferred or will be transferred to Fed Loan Servicing. So depending who your current servicer are, many of you might have loans with Great Lakes. You might have loans with Advantage. You might have loans with Nelnet. You might have loans at American Education Services. There's a number at Ed Financial, OSLA. There's a number of different servicers where your loans might be. And if you're going to go down the path of public service loan forgiveness, if we're going to help you, or if you're going to do it on your own, to do that, your loans are going to move to Fed Loan Servicing. That's part of the process. Sometimes folks get nervous or anxious about that. And so I always like to point out that's part of the form, and we want to make sure you understand the process and what's going to happen. And that includes your loans might move. If you've had federal loans for 10 or 15 years, I would guess you've had your loans moved from one servicer to the next. The servicers come and go. They're in business, then they're out of business. The loans move from one servicer to the next. But if you pursue public service loan forgiveness, your loans will move to Fed Loan Servicing. This is the second page. This is the page the employer will complete. we help with this, but essentially what the employer is certifying is they're providing their tax ID number. That is what the Department of Education and Fed Loan Servicing use to determine if the employer is a qualifying employer. They're a nonprofit, they're a public service, they're a government agency. Is that tax ID number? They're going to reference a chart from the IRS. Is this a qualifying employer? They're also going to certify your dates of employment and the fact that you're full or part-time and your average hours worked. All of that is provided by the employer, and they'll sign and date. They'll have to sign their name and date it and provide their contact information in case Fed Loan Servicing has any questions, they can contact them. This is all part of the process. We can help with this. We help folks with this every day. So I did mention that we wanted to dive a little deeper on some of these things. We talked a little bit about qualifying work. The great thing is working, if you are employed with PCUSA, you are working for a qualifying employer. And as I mentioned earlier, proselytizing qualifies for public service loan forgiveness effective July of 2021. You also, if you have past experience working for any sort of federal, state, or local government organization, working in the military, all of that time counts towards public service loan forgiveness. Also, I want to talk about the full-time. So full-time is you work 30 hours or more. And if your employer says that you have to work 35 hours a week to be full-time, well, then you need to work 35. But at a minimum, it needs to be 30 hours and full-time as determined by your employer. Now, you can also get to loan forgiveness working part-time. And we see this, we work with teachers, we work with folks in healthcare. A lot of nurses will work for 2 different hospitals. They'll work 2 shifts a week at one hospital and another shift at another hospital. A lot of times they work 12-hour shifts, so it's 24 hours at one location and 12 at the other. As long as both organizations are nonprofit, 24 here, 12 here, that's 36 hours at 2 or more qualifying employers. That would get you to loan forgiveness. So you can do the same thing as a pastor. And I've worked with a couple pastors who have been assigned to multiple locations. They're part-time at this location and part-time at that other location. As long as the 2 locations combined, you're working 30 hours or more, right? So maybe I work 25 hours. This is a little bigger location, so I spend 25 hours a week here. This is a much smaller location. I only work 10 hours a week here. If both employers are qualifying employers, they're nonprofit public service organizations, and they certify that you're part-time with them and combined, you're working 30 or more hours during the same months, those months will count towards loan forgiveness. So you can get there part-time as well. Now, I know we're covering a lot of material, and I feel like I'm going fast. I'm not trying to lose you. We have a lot of material. I see there's a lot of questions. That's awesome. We love it. And I'm sure Bella's feverishly answering those as fast as she can. So keep them coming. I know Mel and the team do a great job. They will record those, they will post those, they will share those. So you won't miss anything. You'll have an opportunity to go back and review. And I know they're recording this, so you'll be able to listen to it again if you'd like. Another factor we've talked about is eligible loans. I've mentioned there's specific types of loans that qualify for loan forgiveness. So the loan types that qualify are direct loans, subsidized and unsubsidized, both of those qualify. Direct plus loans, oftentimes that's grad plus loans, right? You've gone back for a graduate degree and you have a graduate plus degree, a direct plus degree, that qualifies for loan forgiveness, as well as direct consolidation loans. I mentioned earlier, there's other loan types that don't qualify, but can become eligible by way of consolidation. And those include FFEL Stafford loans, FFEL consolidation loans, Parent Plus loans, Perkins loans, and other FFEL loans. Parent Plus loans are a little different. They're their own little beast, their own little animal. They're treated a little differently, but they can also get to loan forgiveness. Bella, if you have questions on Parent Plus loans, I suspect there's several probably listening from this presentation right now that have Parent Plus loans. Feel free to throw those in the chat or in the Q&A, and Bella will be happy to answer those and give you some guidance on those. Okay. There are certain loan types that don't qualify, and that's important to know too. So that includes defaulted loans. If you have defaulted loans, when your loans are defaulted, they don't count towards public service loan forgiveness. However, we can help. You can get out of default. You can get back into good standing. You can get back on a road to loan forgiveness. We've helped many folks do that. Private loans. So if you have private loans, if you have loans with SoFi or LendTree or any other private lender, those loans are not eligible for public service loan forgiveness. Unfortunately, I'm sure many of those organizations don't tell you that when you're at the point we were thinking about refinancing with them. But when you move from a federal loan to a private loan, one of the many things that you're forfeiting is public service loan forgiveness. Okay. Finally, if you have spousal consolidation. So if you have a spousal consolidation loans, those loans also are not eligible for loan forgiveness. Qualifying payments. I mentioned this, 120 qualifying payments. So there's a couple important things to think about and talk about on this slide. First is the 120 payments do not need to be consecutive, right? So if I start working full-time for a qualifying employer, I'm working at one specific presbytery, and I work there for 3 years, right? Coming out of school, I worked there, I put in 3 years, I'm making payments on my loans. I've made 36 qualifying payments towards the 120 that I need. Let's say I have a family member that's elderly and sick, and so I step away from my role and I go take care of my elderly aging parent. And so I'm out of the workforce for 2 years. And then I return 2 years later. When I return to working for the Presbyterian Church 2 years later, and I start making payments, and I'm making payments on my loan, that's payment 37, 38, 39, 40. I keep going towards the 120. The clock doesn't reset back to zero just because I was out for 2 years taking care of an elderly parent. All right. So it could also be that you're working for a qualifying employer and you leave and go work for a for-profit organization. We run across that working with folks in education or in healthcare. And so you can leave and go to a for-profit, and then after a few years, go back to nonprofit. You pick up right where you left off. The clock doesn't start over again back at zero. Okay. And another thing that we want to mention is that, and because this in every webinar we do, there's always almost someone that this pertains to. And that is that during this COVID forbearance, which we've been in now since March 13th of 2020, so more than 2 years, if you have direct federal loans, you've been in COVID forbearance and with a $0 payment and zero interest. Now, a lot of folks didn't know about public service loan forgiveness, didn't know that they were eligible, weren't even thinking about it. They saw this opportunity with COVID forbearance at $0 interest, 0% interest, $0 payment. And they said, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to really pay down my loan. And so they've been making payments during this time. And then they come to find out that they're eligible for public service loan forgiveness. Well, during COVID forbearance, again, going back to March, if you have direct loans, and you could have been in COVID forbearance, or you were even in COVID forbearance, but you were making payments, you did not need to make payments and you could still get public service loan forgiveness. So we have talked to many folks and found out that they were making payments and we're helping them with public service loan forgiveness. And we say, hey, you can get your money back. We can call the servicer and we can give you, you can get a refund. You can get all the money you've been making payments on. You've been making $200 or $300 a month payments for 2+ years. You can get all those payments back because really those are dollars that you could get in forgiveness at the very end. So you're taking that money that you paid, you're getting it back, and ultimately those are dollars that could be forgiven. So I suspect there's at least one person on this call because I see we have a lot of participants. We have 150. So I would wager a large sum of money. There's at least one person on this presentation that would apply to. So I don't say that to embarrass you, but I do say that to help give you financial wellness and joy. That's what we're here for, remember. And I see some thumbs up. That's awesome. I even see a heart. That's awesome. That tells me there's maybe more than one person, which is not surprising. This is something that we run into. Before you ask for the refund, again, we want to make sure you have the right loan type. And the other thing too is when you call, they may not want to give you the refund. Sometimes we have to help make sure that they know what they're doing and that they do in fact give the refunds, because not everybody you talk to, if you've called and talked to loan services, you probably know some of them are not very nice and some of them aren't very knowledgeable. And that's because they have turnover in their job, and sometimes they don't even know that these rules have changed. In fairness to them, we have a hard time keeping up, and we do this every day. The rules have changed a lot. And so to be fair, there's things that they just may not know. They may not be told when these rules change. So, but we want to share that. So again, just some key takeaways on public service loan forgiveness. You have to be on the right repayment plan. A lot of folks, you probably don't even know what repayment plan you're on. Many of you are probably on standard. Some of you are probably on income driven. If you're on an income driven, I would guess you know what you're on. Some of you are on extended, graduated, or graduated. Many of you probably don't know what plan you're on. Okay. You have to make 120 payments. There's no shortcuts. You have to put in the time, so to speak, and do the 120 payments while working for a qualifying employer, right? The 10 years in the nonprofit while making payments. And you have to have your employment certified. You have to have the form filled out by your employer saying that you were working full-time for them and that they are a qualifying employer. So these are the key things to remember about public service loan forgiveness. All right, we're changing subjects again. I'm going to jump in here real quick. I'm just going to take a quick look in the Q&A and see what's going on out here.
I was just about to say, if you want, there's plenty of questions that have been answered. So if you're curious that maybe it might have been answered, you're welcome to check the answered section there and see if that question was already answered before you ask, if you'd like.
Sure. Matt asks a question. I had this in the material, but we've changed it, right? Some of you may have heard last year that Fed loan servicing is going away. That was announced in July. And then what happened is in October, the Department of Education announced this Pslf waiver, this limited waiver, October 6th. In November, as I like to say, someone very wise in the Department of Education said, hey, Fed loan, please, please, please don't go away. What can we do to get you to stay longer? Because if you leave, we're going to have a big mess. I don't know, I wasn't party to the conversation, but I'm quite certain it went something a lot like that. And I can tell you, and Bella, I'm sure would agree, that we are very happy Fed loan is still here. If all of Fed loan's clients had to move to other servicers, it would have been an enormous mess. So we're very happy. Fed loan extended until November. And as of right now, as far as I know, Fed loan is going to be in place through November of this year. That may change, but I would say that they're working at a feverish pace to get loans consolidated, get employment certified, and get loans forgiven. So they may be trying to work themselves out of a job, and if so, they're doing a good job at that. But I personally would be surprised if Fed loan goes away in November. They might, and as of right now, they're scheduled to. But that's a great question, Matt, and that was part of our discussion when we met in January. We talked about and revisited that. What about qualifying employment prior to 2007? That won't help you as it relates to public service loan forgiveness, and Bella may have already answered that, but if she didn't, I just did for you. Okay, I'm going to let Bella continue with that. I'm going to continue on with the presentation, and I'm going to talk about consolidation and refinancing. A lot of folks use those terms interchangeably, and while they're very similar, they are not the same. Okay, so let's make sure we understand the difference between consolidation and refinancing. So consolidation is when you take multiple federal loans and combine them together to get to one monthly payment. A lot of folks think that their interest rate changes. And while it may, from a numeral standpoint, change, in reality, it doesn't change. What happens is you get a weighted average. So if you have $20,000 of loans at 6% interest and $10,000 of loans at 5% interest, and you consolidate those loans into one new loan for $30,000, your new interest rate is somewhere close to 5.66%. Why? Because you had 20,000 at 6% and 10,000 at 5%. So the weighted average is going to be much closer to 6% than it is to 5%. You get a weighted average. It's not an increase, it's not a decrease, it's simply a weighted average, okay? When you do a consolidation, you cannot include private loans. It can only be federal loans. No credit check is required to do a consolidation. Now let's compare that to refinancing. When you refinance your loans, you can include both private and federal loans. So you can mix and match federal and private loans together in refinancing into one new loan. You would want to have a good credit score and solid financials so that you can get a lower interest rate. That is an opportunity for savings by going to refinancing. What the trade-off is to do that is that you lose federal benefits like deferment and forbearance and forgiveness. Most importantly, forgiveness. So once you refinance and become a private loan, that loan is no longer eligible for loan forgiveness. And that's a very important factor. Now we have folks come to us asking for guidance and assistance. In some cases, we have to recommend to them that they might want to consider refinancing because they're not going to get to public service loan forgiveness. As much as we hate to tell folks that, sometimes we just have to give bad news. We're just being honest and letting them know where they stand in terms of opportunities and what they can do to best position themselves for financial wellness. To do refinancing, you do need a credit check. So we compare and contrast again by just a table. So are federal loans eligible for consolidation and refinancing? The answer is yes to both. Are private loans eligible for consolidation? No, but they are for refinancing. Will this lower my interest rate? Consolidation, the answer is a hard no. Refinancing, the answer is maybe. Depends on your credit. Will I get one monthly bill if I consolidate? Yes. Will I get one monthly bill if I refinance? Yes. Will I be eligible for loan forgiveness? Consolidation, some folks are surprised to see this. The answer is maybe. Because you consolidate does not mean you're eligible for loan forgiveness. You have to work for a qualifying employer. You have to have the right repayment plan. You have to have the right loan type, right? So just because you do a consolidation does not mean you're going to get to public service loan forgiveness. If you refinance, the answer is a hard no. You will not get public service loan forgiveness if you refinance. And probably the most important question, will I save money? And the answer is maybe. For both consolidation and refinancing, there's no guarantee that either will help you save money. It will depend on many, many factors. All right, want to talk about deferment and forbearance. Two more terms that folks think and use a lot interchangeably, and they are not the same. They are very similar, but they are not the same. So let's understand the difference between the two of these terms. So for deferment, payments are postponed. If you have a subsidized loan, your interest will not accrue. So on a subsidized loan during a deferment, no interest is accruing. But if you have an unsubsidized, interest will continue to accrue. You have to apply and qualify. Now, one of the things that we like to talk about when we talk about deferments is one of the most common types of deferment is what's called in-school deferment. And I would guess there's many of you in the 150 or so that are listening that may be currently in school. So you went to school, you got your undergraduate, you're gone back for a graduate degree. If you're back in school right now, there's a good chance that you're in deferment status. And you may or may not know that. It happens automatically. They do it to you automatically. And the thought process is, well, you're going to school. We don't know if you're working. You probably can't afford to make payments on your loans while you're going back to school, because you're probably not working as much. You may not be working at all. So we're going to assume you can, and it's okay. We'll put you into deferment status. Well, in normal circumstances, that might be good for you. But right now, and going all the way back to March of 2020, most of you have been in COVID forbearance. When you're in COVID forbearance, your payment is $0. You can't get less than $0 by going to deferment. And when you're in COVID forbearance, you're at 0% interest. And I just described the fact that when you're in deferment, if you have an unsubsidized loan, you're still getting interest accruing. So by moving folks from COVID forbearance to in-school deferment, you may be accruing interest, but what you are also doing is you're losing PSLF eligibility. When you're in school deferment status, you are not getting credit for PSLF because there's no bill due. That was what they would tell you, is you had no bill due, you didn't have to make a payment. And that is true. But in COVID forbearance, no payment is due, and you get credit for PSLF. So why would they take you out of something where you're getting credit for PSLF, not having to make a payment, and put you into a status where you don't get credit for PSLF? This is one of the things that is most frustrating for me during this COVID forbearance. And I'm seeing another, I love that shocked face. I love that little face with the circle mouth, okay? Lots of folks don't know this. We can help you. It's not a permanent situation. If you're an in-school deferment status, we can get you back into COVID forbearance. You can get yourself back in, but we can help you, all right? And I'm sure Mel will be happy to tell you about how we might be able to help you, okay? But this is not a permanent problem. This is a fixable problem, but first you have to know it's a problem, right? And so that's what we're trying to do, make sure that you know it's a problem. Let's talk about forbearance. Forbearance, payments are suspended or reduced. Interest continues to accrue. So unlike deferment, interest accrues on subsidized and unsubsidized when you're in forbearance. Now, we've been talking about COVID forbearance. COVID forbearance is a special forbearance. COVID forbearance does not have interest because there's 0% interest in COVID forbearance, all right? You do have to apply and qualify to get forbearance. So that's the difference between deferment and forbearance. They're similar, but they're not the same, okay? Let's talk about some resources. One, what we do, what our process is when folks come to us for help, and we have worked with a lot of folks from the Presbyterian Church. We enjoy working with all of you. The first part is identifying the current status. And so we start with what we call our loan assessment. In there, we're going to ask for some information about your income, your marital status. Do you have dependent children? How long have you worked in the nonprofit space? All information that helps us determine when and if you might get to loan forgiveness. The most important piece of the process is providing us your My Student Data file. This is a file that's available to you from studentaid.gov. Studentaid.gov is the website you went to apply for federal student loans. There's a text file available to you in your account that gives a history of all your federal student loans. For us, it's pure gold. It gives us incredible detail on any federal loan you've ever had. So a lot of folks are like, Kevin, there's a lot of bad actors helping people with, or claiming to help people with student loans, okay? I don't know that I want to give that information to you, okay? What I would tell you is your social security number is not on that file. Your date of birth is not on that file. Your loan account numbers with the servicers is not on that file. But what is on that file is your loan type, your repayment plan, any deferments and forbearances you've had, your interest rate, when your income-driven repayment plan recertification date is. If you've been certifying employment, if you've already been working on PSLF, we can tell by seeing that file. So it helps us get a real clear picture of where your loans are at, and allows us then to move to step 2, which is to make a recommendation on what you need to do to get to loan forgiveness. And will you actually be successful? Are you going to be able to be successful given your income, given your current balance, given your family size and your marital status? Are you going to be successful? And then what we also do is we do the work. We work with you. We make it available. If you met our owner, Emeka, he's very technology driven. So a lot of our stuff is done electronically. It's automated, but if working with us, you will have an account manager that will work with you. Okay. So I've talked about a lot of different things that folks need to do or might need to do to pursue loan forgiveness. One of the things that we want to make sure that folks understand is the timeframes to make these things happen. Okay. So let's start with PSLF employment certifications. Right now, Fed loan servicing is very slow in processing PSLF employment certifications, and I might have to adjust that. But I would tell you that it's going to take 30 to 60 days for them to acknowledge receiving your form. So that 2-page form that we reviewed earlier, once you send it in, or if we send it in for you, if we're working with you and helping you, and we send it in, it's going to be at least 30, probably closer to 60, and maybe more than 60 days before they even acknowledge receiving it. Then, if your loans are not at Fed loan servicing, let's say your loans are at Aidvantage or Great Lakes or Nelnet or any of the other servicers, your loans are going to have to move. That's going to take another 45 to 75 days for your loans to move from wherever they're at to Fed loan servicing. So that's more time in the process. Once your loans get to Fed loan servicing, then it's going to take another 60 to 90 days for them to tell you how many of the 120 payments you've already made. When folks come to visit us and ask for our help, we have folks come to us that have just finished school and are just starting their first job and have only been working at their new job for a month or two. We have some folks like that. Honestly, that's a small number. We work with a lot of folks that have been working where they're at for a long time. In some cases, we work with folks that have been working for 25, 30 years and are still making loan payments and have never pursued public service, and we have to certify. And when we send it to, they've been working with one employer for 25 years. That happens on a regular basis. We see that a lot. Okay, less than probably 10 years ago, but we still see it. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, they still have to go through these steps. And if your loans are not already at Fed Loan Servicing, you can add all those days up. It might be 6 months before you know where you stand on the 120. Okay, now a lot of you, if you were to start down this process, probably don't have loans that are eligible. And we would need to start with consolidation. So before we can even do the PSLF, we would need to do a consolidation. And I think Bella would be the first to agree with me that they are processing consolidations at a record pace. And that's a good thing. Typically, that would take 45 to 60 days. I would say we see a lot of them done in 30 to 45 days right now. They're doing these at a record pace. And that's a good thing, because that's really the most important part of the process, taking loan types that aren't eligible and getting them into an eligible loan type, a direct consolidation loan. So that step has to happen first, and that step is happening at record speed, light speed by their standards, okay? But that's going to take 30 to 60 days, which needs to happen. If you have to have a consolidation, you need to do that first before you even do the PSLF. There's another important factor. So before your consolidation is done, they're going to send a letter to you saying, we're almost done with your consolidation. I like to refer to the letter as the speak now or forever hold your peace letter. Okay. And as pastors, some of you may appreciate that, right? So you get this letter 10 days from the day they send the letter, and they may very well mail it to you. So the 10 days start from when they mail the letter, not when you get it, when they mail it. So by the time you get it, you may only have 3 or 4 days left to act on it. But what you have in that 10-day window is to say, no, I didn't want to include that loan in the consolidation. Wait, I want to put another loan in the consolidation. You have a 10-day window to make any changes you want to make. Once that 10-day window closes, you cannot change anything with that consolidation. So it's a very important window to know, and you want to make sure that the consolidation is done right. They're usually very good at it. I would say 98, 99 out of 100 are done just the way we want them to be done. But every now and then they do make mistakes, okay? And this is your one window that you have to fix that. So want to make sure you understand the timeframes. The last is the in-school deferment. This is what we were just talking about, where if you're in school currently, or maybe you went back to school last year and you're done with it now, you were put into in-school deferment, and those months are not counting for PSLF, but they can by filling out a waiver. The best way to do it is to call your servicer and tell them, look, I don't want to be in-school deferment, put me back into COVID forbearance. If you call them, it will happen quickly. In like 3 to 5 days, your record will be updated. If you work at Fed Loan Servicing actually has a form you could submit. And we like using the form when we're working with Fed Loan because it gives us a paper trail, right? We have a paper trail, our client has filled it out, they've signed it, we've submitted it, we've got dates of when we sent it, when they signed it, we have a copy of the form. So we have paper copy to use if we need to. It's rarely a problem, okay? But if you do the paper version, it takes a little longer. So there's maybe more time of things that you need to have done. So just want to make sure people understand the time frame. Again, if we're helping you, if you work with Melanie and Melanie provides us your information and you're interested in us helping and they're going to make our service available to you, the types of work that we do is we're going to take care of the paperwork for you. After we do that assessment and we tell you, you need to consolidate, you need to certify employment, you need to do this in-school deferment waiver, we will help you with that. We will do the paperwork with you. Everything that we do is electronic, it's on paper. If need be, we'll call your servicer. If you working 3 jobs ago, you were working for a qualifying employer, we'll help you certify that past employer as well as your current employer. You will have a dedicated member of our team working with you that you'll be working with, specifically the team that reports to Isabella. She's the one that manages that team. So her and we have a great team. We have several folks that are truly exceptional. We hired one about a month ago, and she'd been working in our space, doing it for a much smaller company on her own for 5 years. She's very good. She's very knowledgeable. We have several others like her. So you'll have an individual dedicated to you to help you with and guide you through the process. So, and the best part is if you work with Melanie and Melanie sends you our way, the Presbyterian Mission Agency is going to pay for our service. They've already paid for it. Our services are no cost to you. They want you to get to financial wellness. And Melanie is a great advocate. She's phenomenal. She's really knowledgeable. Like when we met her and she started talking, she knew almost as much as we did, probably as much as we did. She's very knowledgeable in the space. And so, you know, we're really happy to have this partnership. We appreciate the opportunity. She's done a lot of work to help a lot of folks in the Presbyterian Church. And we couldn't be happier to be part of it and to help even more. We like to provide testimonials. If you go to our website, you can see others. We have some video testimonials, but this is one that really resonated with us. It's something that we hear frequently, and that is the description of a huge weight being lifted off of our shoulder, right? Sometimes the words are a little different, but that's the most common thing we hear, right? And it resonates with us. I would tell you, I was describing earlier, pastors found out that they, could be eligible for loan forgiveness in July. We didn't know till November if they were going to allow us look back and do past payments. We helped our first Presbyterian pastor, get loan forgiveness in January. It was $25,000. This pastor, she was at retirement. She wanted to retire. She couldn't retire because she still had loan payments. She'd been paying loans for that long. The team member that was helping her name's Allie on our team. And Allie, it was the first client of Allie's that got forgiveness. And this pastor's loan balance was almost exactly the same as what Allie's own balance is on her federal loans. So Allie was every bit as happy as this pastor, probably not quite as happy, but she was almost as happy as this pastor because she could relate. She could relate to having a $25,000 burden lifted off of her shoulder, not having to worry about making payments, not wondering when was that loan ever going to be paid off again, right? We hear this frequently. And that's why we love our job. We love it. We love doing it. We had a client this morning that got loan forgiveness. So, and we had a couple last week. In the last 12 months, we've helped borrowers get almost $2 million in loan forgiveness. So it varies. Some are 5,000, some are 200,000. So it doesn't matter. They're all extremely happy. So here's some additional resources, places you can go to get loan information, studentaid.gov. You can find out lots of opportunities about your student loans where you can get that text file I was talking about. If you want to know about tax deductibility of your loans, you can go to irs.gov. If you need a credit report, you can go to free annual credit or just go to annual credit reports to get a free one every year. For financial management tools, you can go to mint.com or You Need a Budget. Those are both excellent websites, resources that we recommend. If you have questions, you can reach out to us. But most importantly, reach out to Mel. You guys have a tremendous resource at the Presbyterian Church. Laura, Brian, who works with her, very supportive, providing resources for everyone in the Presbyterian Church, trying to help you guys manage the debt and get out of that burden and get to financial wellness. And we're happy to be part of that. So I know there's been a bunch of questions. Bella, is there anything that you want to mention or you think I need to talk about?
There are quite a few questions in chat that I'm trying to push through. So if I look through here and I see like some consistent ones, I can mention those. There's a lot of questions about loan types and if your payments will qualify on certain loans. The best thing I can tell you is to just submit an assessment with us because, there's qualifying loans, there's different types of loans, there's loans that can qualify if there certain steps are made. So there's so many different situations, and unless we see your My Student data file and see your exact situation, it's really hard to speak on that. So I encourage you, if you do have questions about certain things like that, please reach out to us.
Let's just jump in here and pick a random question. Let's see. Let's pick a question. All right. Let's see. Nanette has a question. I have direct loans, both subsidized. Would these be at Fed Loans service at Fed Loans? They might be. Nanette, I would ask, who are you when you were making payments? Who were you making payments to? There's about 9 different federal student loan services, actually a little less than that because 1 or 2 have dropped off the map. So, but Fed Loan Servicing, Great Lakes, Nelnet, Ed Financial, OSLA, those are all federal student loans. You would likely be eligible. I don't know if you work for a qualifying employer. I assume you do because you're participating in this webinar, but you probably are a good candidate and probably someone that you might want to have us help you. My employment certification forms have employment dates listed with slashes instead of hyphens. Will this make them reject my certification form? No, we submit ours with slashes. So ours also use slashes, Samantha, or Shannon. I'm sorry, that was Shannon that sent that question. I'm about to graduate this May and scheduled to come off in-school deferment. Can I switch to avoid to COVID deferment? Excellent question, Leslie. I love that question. So yes, you're in school, you come out of school, you go into grace for 6 months. Wait. Kevin said I could get COVID forbearance and I could get credit for PSLF. You're exactly right. You don't want to be in grace. If you could be in COVID forbearance is better than grace. Grace is $0 payment, COVID forbearance is $0 payment, 0 interest. Grace is nothing, no payment, but no PSLF credit. So you want to be in COVID forbearance. How do you do that? You consolidate. You have to consolidate. If you consolidate, you come out of grace. That's the only way to get out of grace early. So that was a great question. I think that was Leslie that asked that. So if you're in school and you're about to go into grace, you absolutely do not want to be in grace, because if you're graduating in May, you're going to be in grace for 6 months till November. Well, you could be in COVID forbearance until at least August. And if you ask my personal opinion, no inside knowledge, I doubt very heavily that payments resume in September. If I was a wagering guy, if I was a betting guy, I don't think they're going to start in September. They might, but that's also 60 days before an election. And I find it hard to believe some politicians are going to make people start making payments on loans right before they have to get elected. So I don't know. I'm just saying, again, payment, as my boss will be mad if I don't put lots of caveats. Payments right now are scheduled to start in September. So you have to start plan. You have to plan the payments start in September. But if you're a betting person, I don't know if I'm taking that bet. Okay. How do we sign up?
Can I jump? Yeah, let me jump in for a second so I can cover that since we're coming up on an hour. Okay, so how do you sign up? If you have registered for this webinar, then you submitted everything you need to sign up. After this is over, I've already sent Kevin a list of 100 something people who are signed up. They'll be reaching out to you by the end of the week to set up what to do next. And so
I sent an email today, just to clarify, Mel, I sent it today. It went out around lunchtime today. So you should have already gotten it. If you don't have it, look in your spam or junk folder. Sorry.
Yeah, look in your junk. And if you have Gmail, it went to my promotions tab. So check out your promotions tab. And then if you don't see it at all, you'll want to add peoplejoy.co to your safe senders list. And if you still don't have it and you think you should, then just send me an email. I can put my email in the chat in a second. Here's what's happening with the coaching. So we have 2 doors that you can enter through. You can enter through the Board of Pensions door, which is for any plan members who are receiving benefits from the Board of Pensions. So that's ordained ministers who are serving churches. Or you can go through the mission agency door, which is our side, and that is for any employee of a PCUSA organization. And that's not just as congregations, that's a national office, that's a mid-council, that's a camp or conference center that's related. We're trying to be as broad as possible. So we're going to try to get you in. So there's many doors. Even if you're working part-time. And so that's the other thing, like Peoplejoy will also take a look at your loans and let you know if there's a different repayment plan you should be in. They'll let you know there's some options for private loans. They have some programs for that. So just because you don't think you're going to qualify for PSLF, that doesn't mean that you can't benefit from having Peoplejoy take a look at your loans. They probably won't be able to, you probably won't get the 10 years forgiveness, but there's other things that you can do to make sure you're managing your debt well. So all of that to say, if you are eligible for help from Peoplejoy, I will be reaching out to you today, right after this, to let you know that they will be contacting you. If you're not, I will also be reaching out to you to let you know that you're not, and then we can talk about what to do next. So there's that. So you have already applied. Just because you are here, your presence here means that you have already applied, and I will be sending those things out right after this. Is there a cap level that can be?
Pam asked a really good question. Pam asked a great question. Okay. If a borrower has to make 120 payments before applying, what is the October 31 deadline about? I'm confused. Okay. And I suspect a lot of folks are. We've thrown a lot of information at you, and it's easily to get confused and overwhelmed. We understand. We have a hard time sometimes. There's been so much change in the last year. So Pam, just to clarify, the October 31 deadline is for the limited PSLF waiver. And the most significant piece of that is if you have loan types that need to be consolidated to be eligible for loan forgiveness, specifically FFEL loans or Perkins loans, those are the two most common type. You need to consolidate those by October 31st. And if you do, then you will be allowed to count the payments you made before the consolidation. If you consolidate after October 31st, when you consolidate, you'll be at 0 to the 120. All your past payments will not count, and you'll have to make another 10 years of payments. So it is extremely important that if you don't have the right loan type, that you get your loans consolidated before October 31st. You can certify employment after, but in certifying employment is important too. I don't want to downplay it, but the most important piece is you have to get your loans consolidated to allow them to count payments before that. So that is the key thing about October 31st, and hopefully that helps you. How to get access to your My Student Data file, that's a very specific question, Jose. We have some really good instructions. What I would say is if you're interested, start the process with us. When you come to our site to get the assessment, we have instructions right there. If you get lost, or our assessment process takes about 7 to 10 minutes to complete, but we know life happens, you get interrupted. If you're doing it at home, you got spouse, you have kids, you have a pet that interrupts you and you forget, and you forget to finish, or you're at work and somebody interrupts you, you get called into a meeting, whatever it might be. We will send you a reminder. When we send you a reminder that we need your My Student Data file, it will include instructions. We have really good instructions on how to get it. It's pretty easy. The toughest part is getting logged in. Most people have not been to studentaid.gov in a long time, and they don't know how to log in. Once they get logged in and they're able to get logged in, it's really not that difficult. So I'm not going to go through the steps with you, but if you come to us to get an assessment, we'll give you step-by-step instructions when you're doing it, or we'll send it to you as an email if you need to do it later. Okay.
Scott asked a good question too. So not all of you will have gotten emails from Kevin, because I have a cutoff on Thursdays. I'm sending the list. So if you registered after last Thursday morning, then you'll be on the next batch. So you will be getting emails shortly, but you may not have gotten it yet. So just keep your eye out. We'll get to you as soon as we can. So it's just a lot of you signed up like recently, so
Mel's really organized. She sent me the list last week, and I do believe there was 160 folks on the distribution, or maybe 156, something like that.
Also, you can also come in this door if you're an ordained minister. We'll send you directly to the Board of Pensions if we're working together with them. So it's okay if you're in this webinar, you don't need to also go and fill out their form. You've already applied for the Board of Pensions side as well through your registration at this webinar. So don't worry about going to find them. We're working together and sharing that so that you can get in whichever form you fill out, you'll get in. We're working that out on the back end. So you're good. This Brian asked a question which opens a door to help me a little bit. So Brian says, my loans are at Advantage. I filled out FAFSAs for all of them. They were with FedLoan, and then they moved from FedLoan to
to Advantage. Are they going to qualify? Yes, Brian, you have loans that would qualify. I can tell you just based on what you by that information. Okay. One of the things I don't know what your loan types are. They may very well be FFEL loans that need to be consolidated. Or they could be direct loans. I don't know until I see my student data file. That's why we don't like to prognosticate. We want to see that file. One thing I would tell you is if you have loans now, or if you've had loans in the past with AES, American Education Services, if you have loans with them right now, you have FFEL loans. You definitely want to consolidate. You are one of the folks that needs that October 31 deadline to be met. Okay, I can guarantee if your loans are at AES, you have FFEL loans. You might have a Pell Grant, or you may have some other odd grant that we can't help you with, but very likely if you're at AES, you have an FFEL loan that needs to be consolidated to get credit for your past payments. Okay, FFEL loans are also serviced by Fed loans. So if you're at Fed loan, you might have FFEL loans. Okay, so those are probably, and Nelnet. So if you're at Nelnet, and your account number with Nelnet starts with a D or a J, you have FFEL loans. Those loans need to get consolidated by October 31st. I can tell you without any doubt, you want those loans to be consolidated. If you're at Nelnet and your account number starts with a D or J, you need to consolidate that loan before Halloween, all right? Those are some of the more common FFEL loan servicers. And so if you are at AES or you're at Nelnet and your account starts with a D or J, Fed loan, that's a big umbrella. I'm not going to throw them in there, but they do have FFEL loans. If you have loans at Fed loan, you may very well have FFEL loans. Okay. If you have loans at OSLA, you may very well have FFEL loans. And at Ed Financial, they also have FFEL loans. So there are a few other options. Advantage also has FFEL loans. Depending on, Advantage has a lot of different loan types. It's the old Navient. So some Navient loans are direct, a lot of loans are FFEL loans. So if you have loans at Advantage, you may very well have FFEL loans. If you have loans at those servicers, you definitely want to find out if you have FFEL loans. And if you have FFEL loans, you want to get them consolidated before Halloween to maximize your opportunity for forgiveness.
There was one really good question. Actually, there's two, but there's one. I don't know if you guys touched on this from Carrie, but it's about the big payment. Did you see that one?
I did not see that one. You said
Okay,
Terry?
so
Oh, I see this. I made a huge payment. Go ahead, Bill.
that's okay. So great question. So there's a couple parts to this that I just want to touch on. So if you did make a payment, it is like a large payment, regardless of how big the payment is. If you make one payment, it counts as one credit. So regardless of the amount, as long as it's over your monthly payment, you only get one. Now, if you made that payment and it's on a direct loan and it was during this COVID forbearance time, you can request for a refund on that. And then what you can do, if you want, you can take that money and use it for future payments, and you can even ask for that to be dispersed monthly. So that way you get, every month you get one credit. So there's a couple things you can do with that, or you can go on a vacation with that if you've made it during this COVID time, whatever you'd like to do. But yeah, it is one payment. So I recommend if there's a way to get that back, if it's during the COVID forbearance, you do want to, I would request a refund. But if it's not, you might want to just request maybe most of it, just to ensure that you still made your monthly payment on that month. I don't know if I missed it. There was one. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, just they did make a change where you can make lump sum payments. However, for PSLF, you have to be on an income-driven repayment plan, and the lump sum payment has to be within 1 year's worth of payments. So if you're on an income-driven repayment plan and your monthly payment is $300, you could make a lump sum payment of $3,600 at the beginning of your 12-month IDR and say, I want this to apply for the next 12 months, and you'll get credit for the next 12 months. But if you made a $30,000 payment and the next 12 months on your IDR is $3,600, that extra $2,700, that's not going to help you. And in fact, that's going to reduce the amount of loan forgiveness you're going to get. So one of the things just conceptually that we share with folks is when you're pursuing public service loan forgiveness, you don't want to pay $1 more than what you have to pay, okay? Any dollars you pay beyond what is required is money that you will not get in loan forgiveness that you may have gotten in loan forgiveness. So that's why it's important to get an assessment to find out if you're going to get to loan forgiveness. Because if you're going to get to loan forgiveness, you don't want to pay 1 penny more than you have to because all of those are dollars that would have been forgiven. If you're not going to make it to loan forgiveness, then you would want to be making payments right now during the COVID forbearance, because there's no interest, and every dollar you pay is going to the principal, and you're driving down that payment and driving down the total cost of that loan. So if you come and visit us and we say, unfortunately, you know, because of your loan balance, because of your household income, because of where you're at in terms of employment towards the 120, you would have your loans paid off before you get to loan forgiveness. And we have to tell some folks that. We hate to do it, but we have to be honest, right? We don't want to give you a false impression. So if we tell you that, then you would definitely want to pursue, if you can make extra payments and pay a little extra. And one of the other services that Mel may not even be aware of, or may be bad on me that I didn't even communicate. We offer a Roundup service. So if you come to us for an assessment and we tell you you're not going to be able to get to loan forgiveness, or maybe we tell you, actually, you have private loans, you can't get to loan forgiveness, we offer a service that's called Roundup. You can attach a credit card. Think of it like your coin jar, right? I have a coin jar. It sits right next to my car keys. I have a spot in our cabinet with all our car keys. And we have a jar full of coins, and we throw pocket change in there. And then every 6 months, we take it to the bank and deposit it. What you can do is attach a credit card or debit card. Every payment you make with that card will be rounded up to the next dollar. So you go out to dinner with your spouse and you pay $45.82. 18 cents will get added. That 18 cents is sitting in a little jar. Every month we sweep that jar and we submit that payment to your servicer as an extra payment. It'll help you pay off that private loan faster. So it's another way, as Mel said, to help you get financial freedom, financial wellness, even if you have a private loan. If we can't help you with public service loan forgiveness or Perkins loan cancellation deferment, another service that we help folks with, we can help you in terms of getting that private loan paid off faster by using our Roundup service on a credit or debit card that you have. We have a number of folks that use that service to help them get their loans paid off faster. So a lot of options. I don't know, Mel, do you want any more questions, or do we need to call a cap?
So this is being recorded, hopefully in 3 languages, fingers crossed, and it will be posted at www.pcusa.org/loan assist, which I will put in the chat right now, and that'll happen next week. And there's already a bunch of so we did this webinar in January as well, and there are a bunch of clips on that website already that have basically all the same questions. It was the same content. Lots of people have the same questions, so you can probably go right now and find answers to whatever questions you have if you go to the Loan Assist site and click on the see past webinars, and that'll take you to a page where there's like YouTube videos and all kinds of things. So that's a good resource for you. But this specific webinar will be posted next week once we get it edited. So I'll send out an email to everybody on this list. And then today I'll send out something to tell you when you can expect to hear from Peoplejoy. So because I'll have a completed list since the webinar's over, no more registrants. So yeah, so you'll be hearing from me. But yeah, I think that's good. I didn't see any more questions in there. Isabella, did you see anything that we hadn't covered?
Only just really small clarifying question I just want to mention about the refunds, because there's a lot of questions about refunds. If you have made payments on direct loans and you have pursued PSLF and you're switching to Fed loan, let's say you're with Navient and you're switching to Fed loan, if you've made payments before your loan switched to Fed loan, you need to ask for a refund, because once your loan switch servicers, you can't ask them for a refund. I think I've maybe only seen that. I don't even know if I've seen that happen once, but I've requested it to happen. And unfortunately, your loans are bought out by the new servicer and they can't usually assist you with refunds in that circumstance. So just a clarifying response there on that.
I did see a question that Bella probably answered it, but someone asked, is there a cap in terms of amount of public service loan forgiveness you can get? And there is no cap. That's the great thing about the program. So, and you know, we work with folks, in addition to the Presbyterian Church, we work with folks in healthcare and education. And so, as you might imagine, there are some, especially doctors, that have a tremendous amount of debt. We have another testimonial that you can read on our website from a doctor that got $200,000 in loan forgiveness. So there is no cap in terms of public service loan forgiveness. So in terms of you may have hundreds of thousands of dollars in loan forgiveness. And if you make 10 years of payments while working for a qualifying employer, you can have that entire amount forgiven. But that's part of the reason why we have the assessment. So appreciate a lot of questions, just like there were in January. Actually, I think the January meeting that we had with Mel and the group, I think is the very first one where we brought up the subject of the refunds, and it was stunning. I had never brought it up before just because it's a little bit of a hornet's nest. And I think the very first one in January was the very first time I'd ever done it. I've used it in several since then. So it's always fascinating to see the response when we tell folks that. The shocked, I love that shocked look face. I got to figure out how to use that when I'm in meetings now with folks.
And also, I think we need you all to help us spread the word about these things. October 31st is a very real deadline, and there are very real consequences for people who don't get in there and do the things that need to be done before October 31st. So talk to your people, and it's not just PCOSA members, it's not just pastors, like any person who has student loan debt and works for a nonprofit or public service entity. So teachers, people do. So your networks of people that you're serving can benefit from this, not just PCOSA people. So spread the word, let people know, share the things that we post on social media. Like, these webinars are also for anyone. So anyone can come to these webinars and get the information about public service loan forgiveness, limited opportunity waiver, consolidation, all of that. These webinars are open to everyone. We're going to be doing them monthly. The next one's in June. You can go to the Loan Assist page to see the dates for that. But we have to evangelize this to everyone, and now you're part of that team. So welcome to the team of getting as many people loan forgiveness as possible. And if you want me to come talk to her, if you need resources, whatever it is, let me know, because this is my whole passion. So let's get people forgiveness, and we can do it together. So I think that'll be it. I put my email in there before. You can always reach me. Kevin and Isabella, do you have anything before we end? No?
Nope. Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate you all. And we hope to be able to work with you soon and help many of you get to loan forgiveness.
Yes.
Yeah, same here. Very excited to work with you all.
All right. Thank you all. And thanks everybody for coming. And you have my email, you've got the website. So if we didn't answer your question, just send me an email and we can get to it. So, all right. Thanks everyone. Y'all have a great day.